FDA in Science News just a couple of weeks ago came out and said, uh-oh, Houston, we have a problem. They put out new warnings on statin drugs saying
diabetes.
Increases your risk of diabetes by 50%, increases your risk of Alzheimer's disease by 100%.
That's amazing.
If you go on a cholesterol-restricted diet and you take cholesterol-lowering drugs, statin drugs, you will get Alzheimer's disease.
Yeah.
Okay? And I said that in 1971, and they all laughed at me.
Because you need cholesterol to make neurons.
That's right. You must eat eggs. See, egg is a perfect food. You start out with a chick on that egg the size of a lentil, as thick as a piece of paper, with the diameter of a lentil, right? I mean, we're talking about 3 or 4 millimeters in diameter, 1/10 of a millimeter thick. That's the chick, and there's the yolk and the white. That's all food for the chick. In 21 days of incubation, you have a chick with a beating heart and lungs and legs and all the muscles and feathers and skin and eyes and brain.
All from that little egg.
All from that little egg. And so it's a perfect food.
Yeah.
And so if you want to keep your brains, you want to have a great sex life, you want to you want to have your adrenal glands that are happy, you don't want to have menopause, you don't want erectile dysfunction, you better be eating 6 to 10 to 12. I eat a minimum of 8 eggs a day. I try for 12 every day.
Where else can you get? What other foods would you recommend?
Eat the chicken skin, throw the chicken away. Just don't eat it fried, okay? You can eat
fish skin?
Yeah, you get a little bit of cholesterol actually in salmon, in the fat underneath the salmon skin. You can get it from red meat. You can get it from lard and butter. You get a little bit of cholesterol in butter.
What do you think about, what nutrients would you use with your cholesterol? Any particular vitamin E or essential fatty acids?
Well, sure. You have to take the 90 essential nutrients, which includes vitamin E, and we're talking about selenium and vitamin A. All these things are antioxidants in their own right. Now, vitamin A, why did they call it vitamin A? Because it was the first one discovered. When it was discovered over 4,000 years ago by the Egyptians, they could get rid of night blindness, which we know is caused by vitamin A deficiency, by giving people extracts of liver. They'd squeeze liver, get the juice out of the liver, give it to you, and night blindness would go away.
Vitamin A is a stupendously important vitamin as well. How about for the immune system, vitamin A for the immune system?
Of course, because it's an antioxidant. It helps protect you from free radicals and also helps your immune system fight against organisms, transmitted organisms like bacteria and viruses and fungus and yeast and all kinds of stuff. So every one of the 90 essential nutrients is important. They're called essential nutrients. They're not optional nutrients.
The word essential, that's what that means. Now, real quick, I wonder if you could touch upon the digestive system. We got 80 million Americans with digestive problems. 1 out of 3 Americans is dealing with some kind of digestive issue. When we know with liquid nutrients you can bypass a lot of that, but what would you recommend for folks in terms of not essential nutrients necessarily, but accessory nutrients that people can use to support digestive wellness?
Okay, well, first of all, the old theory used to be you are what you eat, right?
Right.
That's not right.
It's what you absorb.
You are what you absorb. Very good. You are what you absorb.
Right.
And so when you pick the right number, when you said 30% of Americans have a terrible digestive problem, Mayo Clinic came out in 2009 and said 30% of Americans have gluten intolerance. Now there's some communities that eat a lot of grains because they're, for whatever reason, it's cheap, it's stored for years in case there's some imminent disaster, right? We're talking about the Amish, the Mennonites, the Hutterites, the Mormons, the Seventh-day Adventists are all vegetarians, they eat a lot of grains. They have 80% gluten intolerance. Now what that does is you lose the villi in your small intestines, and you get celiac disease, you get diverticulitis, you get irritable bowel syndrome, inflammatory bowel disease, you get ulcer colitis.
And you don't absorb your nutrients.
You lose 85% ability to absorb them, so what's 15% of nothing?
Nothing.
Very little.
Yeah.
Right? And so the problem we have now is all these people now are being told to eat whole grains, and so there's all this gluten intolerance happening, so people are not absorbing what little nutrition there might be naturally in the food, and they're not supplementing. And so you have to get off of gluten, you have to supplement properly, and then 99% of these problems go away. When you're talking about diseases, for instance, like you have a baby born with muscular dystrophy, cystic fibrosis, cleft palate, they're born deaf, and all this kind of stuff. Invariably, the mother will be gluten intolerant because what little nutrients are in the food, she can't absorb them very efficiently.
So she's got a malnourished fetus.
She's got a malnourished fetus.
Wow.
It's not genetic.
Oh, yeah, it's malnourishment.
It's malnourishment. But here's the thing that gives doctors a little bit of hope that their theory is correct. Gluten intolerance is passed on through cord blood or breast milk. It's not genetic, but the glutens are passed on.
The allergens.
Well, they're not even allergens. They're not. It's not an allergy. It's an intolerance.
So in other words, the proteins, the peptides that pass through in the milk, and the baby becomes intolerant to it as well.
Yes, exactly. Now here's the deal. Nobody's allergic to poison ivy because there's no pollen involved. Nobody eats it for salads, but everybody is intolerant of it. Now you rub poison ivy on yourself, you don't get an allergic reaction.
You don't get an immune reaction.
You have a contact dermatitis.
Right.
The same thing when you eat gluten and you have a gluten intolerance, you don't get an allergic reaction. You get a contact.
It's a mechanical issue. Would you say it's mechanical?
It's a chemical irritant. You get a contact enteritis. Okay.
So it's not necessarily an allergic reaction.
It is not an allergic reaction.
It's still an immune reaction.
No.
It's not even an immune reaction. Is it mechanical?
It's a chemical irritant.
So gluten is an irritant.
Oh yeah, it's a contact enteritis.
Bakers will get it too. There's baker's dermatitis.
Well, yeah, exactly the same thing.
Same idea.
And so what you do is you get these people on gluten-free diets. Their asthma goes away in 2 weeks.
It's amazing.
And you have a woman who's had 3 kids in a row with muscular dystrophy. You put her on a gluten-free diet, you give her the 90 essential nutrients appropriate for her body weight, you throw in some extra selenium, she'll never have another child with muscular dystrophy. She can have 10 more kids, but none of them will have muscular dystrophy because it's not genetic.
That's amazing. Now, are there other things in grains aside from gluten? Gluten gets all the press, but there's other things as well. Are there other proteins, other peptides?
Well, sure, there are allergens. You can get a wheat allergy, but it's not necessary to be gluten intolerant.
Is grain a problematic food, in your opinion?
Yes, it is, because human beings were never designed to eat grain.
Yeah.
Now, the animals that do very well with grain are ruminants.
They have extra stomachs.
They have 4 stomachs.
Yeah. So if we had 4 stomachs, maybe we'd be able to eat that.
Well, we'd be able to eat grain.
Yeah.
We have a single stomach, and we don't have the capacity to handle grains like an antelope and a buffalo and the horses and cattle and sheep and goats and all these animals with 4 stomachs. When you look around the world, other than one-celled animals, the 4-stomach animals are the most universal form. They're everywhere, on every continent, every place. There's more species of ruminant animals than there are elephants.
So our digestive system just isn't designed to eat these kinds of things.
That's right.
Isn't that interesting? You know about Jared Diamond, right? He wrote a paper called Agriculture was the worst thing that ever happened to us in human history, something along those lines. But the idea being that we're not supposed to be eating these kinds of foods.
Germs, guns, and...
guns, germs, and steel. Yeah. But the idea is that we're not supposed to be eating these kinds of foods. What about gluten-free? What about gluten-free flours and gluten-free grains? What's your take on those?
Well, gluten-free grains are what? We're talking about millet.
Yeah.
Buckwheat, which is not wheat.
Quinoa.
Quinoa, and you're looking at rice. You ever hear of the old macrobiotic diet?
I don't know a lot about it.
Well, during the 60s, the hippies and all those flower children were running around eating the macrobiotic diet, which was essentially a German cleansing diet that was made from brown rice and steamed vegetables. It was only supposed to be done for 2 weeks, but they felt good on this stuff, right? And so they added a little bit of fish to it, maybe some eggs, so you get enough protein so you could live on them forever. And, I mean, these people were solving problems like eczema, asthma, were all going away in this macrobiotic diet. And they said, it's the magic of the brown rice. No. It's because they gave up wheat.
That's interesting.
And there was this Michio Kuchi who popularized, he's a Korean guy who popularized the macrobiotic diet. He had terminal pulmonary tuberculosis. I mean, 90% of his lungs were filled up with tubercle abscesses, and he was beyond hope, according to the doctors, right? He got on the macrobiotic diet, and 3 months later, he's gluten-free, he's cured.
That's a great story. Now, I don't know if people really recognize that you are a prolific writer, and you write some great books. You write some great books, and what I like about your books is how you pull together all these disparate fields, these disparate sciences, anthropology and sociology and history and economics and nutrition and chemistry and biology. You pull the whole thing together. And you got a great story, and I think it's in Hell's Kitchen. I'm not sure which one. I think it might be Hell's Kitchen, where we talk about the wood ash. And that's just a brilliant story about how people got the idea that you could actually get healthy by using ash. And you see sometimes you'll see ash on in the ingredient decks or in the nutritional facts on dog food. And tell us a little bit about this whole idea of ash and minerals and how that works in terms of nutritional power and nutritional
Well, sure. Well, this goes back to the caveman.
Was that Hell's Kitchen, by the way?
Well, it was in Hell's Kitchen. There's a little bit of that in the book Rare Earths Have Been Cures.
Okay.
And also a little bit in even Let's Play Doctor Immortality. It's in all of it. Because in the old days, even in the caveman days, you know, they had fires, right, for their fuel.
Right.
And the cave's going to get filled up with ashes.
Right.
So they had to throw it outside. It didn't take long to recognize that, you know, where they were throwing those ashes, the green stuff the leaves were twice as big than where it didn't get. So when they started gardens, they would throw the wood ashes into the gardens rather than just throw it down the stream or in the recycling bin to save the earth, right? They'd put it in the gardens. Well, wood ashes are not ashes. Wood ashes are really the minerals that the tree had sucked up out of the ground. And when you burn the wood for fuel, the minerals don't burn. So you have a powder in the fire pit, the fireplace, the wood stove.
The ashes, the minerals that aren't burning.
Yes, they put them in the garden. So then the okra and the tomatoes and the corn and the sweet potatoes and the beans and peas and cucumbers, suck it all up, eat your vegetables and your grains. You got it that way. You got your minerals in that fashion. Nobody made the connection yet. They were using it as a fertilizer, but they never made the connection. They were getting minerals from it. They never did that. But when I know the exact moment when everything changed. It was 3 o'clock in the afternoon, Monday, September 4th, 1882, when Thomas Edison pulled the switch on the first commercial electric generating plant. 3 o'clock in the afternoon, Monday, September 4th, 1882, he pulled the switch on the first commercial electric generating plant on Pearl Street in New York City on the bluff overlooking the construction of the Brooklyn Bridge. Within 10 years after that, every city dweller had switched over to electricity for heating and cooking.
So
how many wood ashes?
They didn't need any more wood ash.
No, they needed them. But how many wood ashes were left over when you cooked and heated with electricity?
Nothing.
Zero. So what did they do to replace all those minerals they've been getting for thousands of years? Nothing.
They got sick.
They got sick now for diseases they never heard of before.
Oh, how interesting. So with electricity.
Yeah, it just displaced were our source of minerals.
That's interesting.
It was sort of a change of just like right now, you can't hardly find a payphone in an airport because of cell phones have replaced it. Newspapers are going away because all the little classified ads are going away because of the cell phones and eBay and all that kind of stuff, right? So is the postal service going away because of email? Yeah. Okay. Well, the same thing happened when you had the electric stove come along.
There's no ash anymore.
No ash anymore. But they didn't make up the difference. Nobody knew to make up the difference. And so wood ash has been, when you look at the top, and this is where the book Immortality comes in, we looked at the top 20 longevity cultures on Earth. We did it through National Geographic. We read 60 years worth of National Geographics because we knew we'd have to spend millions of dollars of our personal money and years and years and years. And then people would say, well, Wallach, we don't believe this one, and we'd argue about that one. So we took everything from the National Geographic, give them plenty of credit and so forth. We used their pick of the top 20 longevity cultures. We have 40 times 100-year-olds. They have 100-year-old per 250 population. We have 100-year-old per 10,000.
Wow.
Okay.
Which cultures?
Well, we were talking about things like Sardinians, the Nicoyans in the Pacific coast, to Costa Rica, really weird places you never heard. Okinawans, right? And so the Hunzas up on the Pakistani border with China.
Lake Titicaca.
Yeah, the Titicacas and that kind of stuff. It was really, really weird. All top 20 longevity cultures are third world cultures. They're illiterate. They have no doctors, no medical system. They have no utilities.
Glacier milk. What do they have?
Well, I thought that's what it was in the beginning, but the universal thing that they picked was they all use wood for fuel.
Oh.
And by dumb luck, Pharmacist Ben, by dumb luck, when you looked at the agricultural schools at the universities in the countries in which these cultures exist, by actual analysis of the land that they grew their food on, and they got the trees that they use for wood, for fuel, they had 60 minerals in their soil. By dumb luck.
By dumb luck.
Yeah.
That's great.